Welcome to Self Help Sundays podcast, episode one. Um, it only fair that the first guest uh, has been a single parent twice with me, 18 years, and then Emily as well. It is a fatherhood podcast, but first guest is pretty special to me. So, Mum, you've done fatherhood, motherhood, the whole lot, all yourself. So, wanted to get you on and see what you had to say about it, Robyn's wisdom, and then see what we can get out of it, and hopefully it helps some people out there and gets people thinking of different ways of expressing what's going on. Let's see how we go. Let's do it. So, Self Help Sundays is a platform where we're going to give fathers and parents a place to talk about some things that popped up in parenting that no one warned them about. Having to deal with, say, sharing your food with your kid, where might not have been a food share in the past, and now you might have saved that last bit of lasagna, and then a little 4-year-old comes by and takes your last bit of lasagna top that you're saving. So what I wanted to do was get you on because no one, everybody out there can know now that you've been a single parent twice. You've gone through everything with me and then gone through it all again with Emily. And I thought it would be, even though it's a fatherhood podcast, I thought it'd be nice to have you on board where you've been the mother and the father for all of it both times. So in saying that, I wanted to see how things have changed for you for the first time around and then for the second time, but also what you've done differently and what you're doing now to combat things that pop up. But how did things change with an 18-year gap for you?
Massively. So, I mean, life and society had changed so much in that time too, and but it was always even, more difficult being a sole parent again. When it happened the first time, and you just think, oh, you don't want that to happen again. But so, I guess how things changed for me was that I was actually 40 when I had him, and I think in lots of ways it's kept me younger, and having a female child sort of links you into some of the female issues that you kind of I guess in lots of ways sometimes you find yourself hearing your mother in your own voice, particularly when you're females, you can sometimes butt heads a bit, and that was that was that sort of been a challenge sometimes, but a great challenge, because the thing was, the funny thing is, I always knew that Em was meant to come along. So for me, it was, that sort of innate feeling that Em was always meant to be here, that I was always going to have yourself and Em. It was one of those meant to be things. So, but life has changed so much. I think social media controls so much of our lives, and our children at this age were so much different from, back in the 80s when you were born. So we didn't have all of those social media pressures. We had more normal things that you dealt with. And now I think as a parent later in life, going, in these days, I think the social media puts so much pressures on kids, and it puts that pressure back onto parents to have to, come up with ways to deal with that.
Where do you
And
think
for
those
me,
pressures were back then? because they still would have been
For
there, but just
you,
not in. Oh, just in general as well. Yeah, but the pressures of I know growing up where we were, you could ride the bike around the streets, not a worry in
yeah,
the world. And where now, there's no chance that you could do that
yeah.
with a guilt-free.
Oh, yeah. I think we live. I think we live with a lot more fear now. There are a lot more. There are a lot more. There feels like there's so many more dangers out there, and in some ways, as a at this time in my life, being 61, um, I'm looking for the things in life that slow life down and trying to get back to the basics. And I think there's a lot of people now experiencing wanting to do that, because as parents we see the pressures that are on children these days and the anxieties, the different anxieties that are causing a whole lot of mental health issues. I mean, I know the mental health issues were around back then, but there is a whole different set of circumstances now that are so difficult and challenging to deal with. We just have to look at the amount of ill health, mental health that we have in our society. And why do we? What is it? Let's just get back. Let's bring it back to basics. Let's slow it down. Let's not have so much technology all the time, or find the balance where I know most of us love technology in some way, shape, or form. It keeps us linked into people when we're isolated. There's lots of positives, but the influence that social media has for various people having different platforms to push their point of view, and it makes like that point of view sound that, yes, this is real, this is the way to go. It's so confusing to our kids growing up.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
From what I've seen in that aspect is that it's also given people that are a bit scared to voice their concerns and opinions, a way of asking for help, or to uh, to dial into a mental health social page and ask a question as a anonymous person and get results. So it does go the other way, and it does open up for people in general, but I think it's also pretty easy for people to hide behind them.
Yeah, and I think for me at this point in my life, you're absolutely correct, Kyle. Everything has a balance, the fors and against, and I think it's like with everything in life, we have to, as adults, be more reassured in ourselves, stand more in our own light, and just not be pressured by so many things out there, but just always try and maintain a healthy sense of balance, so things aren't tipping the scale too long one way or the other. And you're right, but having the social media and the online platforms for people to access information is absolutely terrific. For people who are private and they don't want to reach out in a face-to-face way with a professional, there's a lot of stuff online that people can access now.
So back to you, parenting.
Yeah.
How did you find switching from the mum, taking off the mum hat and the dad hat? Did you try and be two separate people to start with, and to combat the mum and dad influence in the parenting, or did you just try and do it as Superwoman?
Wow. Whew. I think looking back, I winged it a lot. I guess I'll just be totally honest with what comes to mind. Growing up in a sole parent family, the youngest of 7 in the 50s and 60s, there were no supports around then. People had big families, and I had this feeling that we had a tough childhood, you know, Mum was a sole parent, did the best she could. It was a tough childhood. Dad was quite a hard person, and he'd been through his own set of circumstances. So I guess, in a nutshell,
And we all take on, whether it's mentally or emotionally, we all take on something that's passed on to us or that we've seen. And I think there's points where you can stop that along the way and deviate and hey, I didn't like that when it happened to me or whatever it was, and you move forward and make your own path.
Correct. Yeah. And when you were asking me about, you know, what were some of the things that I didn't know as a parent or whatever, I always had this innate feeling like I wanted things to be so much different for my kids. And, you know, and I guess I thought it would be, but when push came to shove, I didn't realise how much your family life can impact you, and you know, sometimes you don't know it until you look back and go, wow, I thought I wouldn't do that, or I dealt with that and it wouldn't impact me, it wouldn't impact my kids, but you can look back and go, well, it did. But so in a nutshell about that, for me, the important thing, if I could do things all over again, I think two things that happened in my childhood that I wish I'd known different, or I'd had adults affirming positively, were that it's okay to go through issues and stuff, but the important is, I mean, there's a lot of people out there who've had tough things happen in their childhoods and stuff. And but I think the most important thing that I can look back on and think, well, I wish I'd known that more back then. And I thought I was pretty switched on, but is that once we become adults, no matter what we've been through or whose fault it was, we really, if things are impacting and things aren't travelling so well, we really need to seek out, whether it's professional support or whatever support that's meaningful, that makes a difference, to deal with that, because it's not our kids' fault. And I just think if all of us who are walking around out there at some point find ourselves a bit in trouble emotionally or impacted by childhood traumas and stuff, remember that it's not our kids' fault, and one way to stop that impacting them is really get the help we need, but for it to be an okay message that we do that too, because no one has the right to inflict, you know, harm or anything on anybody else. You know,
pressures that some people feel, I think. Everybody says I'm always here for you. There's not too many other things you can say, but instead of saying that, I think more people need to be on the lookout. People that.
What's that, Dale? Sorry, I didn't hear you then.
More people need to be on the lookout for signs that their friends aren't in place, rather than just saying, "Hey, I'm here if you need anything." Bit of a throwaway line that gets used a lot. So it's throws its challenges there.
Yeah. And I think we all need to be more loving as a society, really. I just think that, you know, kids growing up in loving environments, it doesn't matter whether you've got one parent or two, or they're two same sex or whatever that, as long as that environment's loving and it's safe, and, you know, we also need to know that kids just don't grow up. They've got to be guided and protected and led and, you know, nurtured and fed information, and, you know, and at the same time be able to be their free spirit and let their individualness come out, you know. And I look at, you know, I look at both Isabel and Connor, and I just go, wow, you know, you and Natty doing, you know, and I know Tony in with Connor, just two amazing individual children that are so loved and so allowed to be themselves, and you know, their
Would you
individualness
think kids
come
of
out.
mine, would you think that they would never be allowed to be themselves?
And a prerequisite was a crazy sense of humour and giggles. Yeah, yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
on a more light note, what would be the funniest thing that has popped up as a parent for you? What's something that's popped up and you just thought, wow, I've never expected that in a funny way? So,
In a funny way.
yeah, so you know how kids say things or they might do things and you might be blown away, or you never expected it. What's something that's popped up over the years for you?
Oh God, there's so many things between you and Em. Gosh, oh, you know, I mean, I look at both of your. That happens all the time.
Yep,
You're both clowns. You're both funny. You've both got really funny, strong sense of humour.
debatable.
So for me, there's been lots of things. There's been lots of moments where I go, I'll just shake my head and go, I'm not even going to try. And, you know, when you two either gang up on your cheekiness, or, you know, one thing both of you, and you taught Em to do, is I'll be doing something in the kitchen when you're here, and the next thing you walk by and you've pulled your shorts down and your bum's hanging out. Like, that's a shake my head moment. Like, and then Em grew up with that, and then the next thing I'll see when you're here, Em will walk by and she's pulled her pants down and her bum's hanging out.
Isabel started doing the same thing. So
yeah.
Haven't seen Connor do it yet, but he'll get there.
Yeah, and the funny things that I see coming out in the kids that are so you, that makes me laugh, both you and Nat. Yeah, just, I think, but then again, if I had to look back at my funny teenage years, my friends would probably say, oh my God, your kids are so much like you, because I did funny stuff like that. I was a little bit of a tomboy, and yeah.
I'm Tom's boy too. For those playing at home, my dad's name's Tom, so I am a Tom boy.
Yeah, so yes, there's been lots of things, lots of funny things. You both call me Robyn. My grandkids are starting to call me Robyn. It's like,
well, it's just the way it
is. Yeah, so yeah, I'll probably think of heaps more things, but yeah, yeah.
What's something else that's shocked you as a parent then?
What's something that shocked me as a parent?
Yeah, shocked you as you thought. We've sort of done the light-hearted side and the funny side, where Em flashes her bum when she walks past you in the kitchen. What are some of the harder things that you've had to reach out to your friends about, where it might have been me sneaking drinks at the age of 16, or all sorts? Anything that's popped up?
I suppose, oh gosh, I suppose the safety that, yeah, I think, you know, for me, protection of my kids is absolutely the most thing, you know, and I just know one of the hard things, and I'm, you know me, I'm someone who, and it's in my family, is that our anxiety can be very heightened at times,
Mm-hmm.
and worrying and knowing that no matter how much you want to protect your kids, that you can't protect them from everything, and that for me has been one of the most difficult, challenging things ever. Yeah. Yep.
Well, it's really tough when sometimes you have to let your kids fail at something, so they learn what that feels like and what it means, and then also how to correct it, and so it doesn't happen again. You can't just wrap our kids up in cotton wool.
No, we can't either. But I think as parents too, in that protection mode, just to be quite vigilant about that as well. Yeah, that, you know, and I mean, because of our family history as well, that's, you know, the fear of not being able to protect people is really, really heightened because of that. So yeah.
It always rears its ugly head, doesn't it?
Yeah. And the impact.
And it's a tough one.
Yeah. That's probably the biggest thing for me. Yep.
Now, how would you, let's say M becomes a single mum. I don't mean this. What would be M becomes a single mum, and she comes to you for advice on what to do and how to get through it. What's a couple of things that you think are key things that someone like in a position like that should know that probably no one told you when you were going through it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair call. Because I think, if I'm really honest, I think you know, as parents, we know of those of us who've been through that journey, you know, if your child comes to you, your heart probably sinks and you go, oh man, this just, you know, the set of circumstances that and the challenges that potentially lie ahead. But I think you've got to just take things day by day, and some of the best parents in the world have been sole parents who've gone on to do fabulous things with their lives. You know, back in my day,
here we go.
Back in my day, I can hear, you know, people were pretty judgmental back then, and sole parents wore this tag of, you know, oh God, you'll be on welfare for the rest of your life and all that. And you know, I never have. I've always worked. I've studied. I've, you know, had good jobs and had some ambition and owned my own homes and stuff. Anybody can do anything, and whilst we have this ideal of, you know, you want your kids to sort of start off financially stable and all that sort of stuff, life doesn't work out like that, you know. And you know, I'm also of the belief that things happen for a reason, and if we changed all that, so many of us wouldn't be here, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And you know, and I think in your situation, you had Connor unexpectedly at such a young age, and he is the love of my life grandchild. I just adore him. He's so funny, and the joy that children bring you. You know, it's individual choice what people want to do, and I think, you know, you're saying, you know, and we'll say if it could be any, you know, you've used Em as an example. I hope she's not upset about that, but
she will.
You know, she's, you know, if that were the case, she's my daughter. Yes, well, I'm encouraging her to go on and do what she wants to do, and live some life. And, when I was 22 and I had you, but in all accounts back then, some people had their children at 16 and 17 back then, so I was sort of in that little bit older bracket, which was crazy when you think about it. But, obviously we want people to, kids to be comfortable in life and start off with good things and be in secure relationships so that it sets you up to, have good pathways forwards. But some things can happen to people that makes you become a sole parent. You can't predict that,
Yeah,
and
it's not the same now as what it used to be.
It
wasn't that common
I mean,
for me growing up.
I think sorry, go on.
Just to see other kids that I grew up with, it wasn't that common for them to have divorce part of their life or anything like that, or single parents. But now I think people use that avenue a bit too quickly and easily. If something's not working, I think people just end it instead of. I think that's
absolutely.
the easy road out instead of working. What issues are there? Why they lie there? That does come back to this as being. I think that people look for the easy way out more so than the best way.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
There's suicides and all sorts of things where people choose different avenues because they're the easy way out and they think it's the only way out. I think it's really good for people to have things like this where they can listen to it, or speak up or message people. Hey, I need a hand. Can you help me with this? Parents going through divorce, or I'm going through divorce. I don't want to treat my kids. I don't want them to be affected really badly as well. So there's always a million things for people to look at and think of. But at the end of the day, if they just look after themselves and think for themselves, be selfish for a minute, then I think their mental health and their well-being is better looked after.
And that was some of the stuff that I wrote down. We talk about having resilient children, and in order to have resilient children, in lots of ways we've got to bring kids up to be resilient and teach them to draw on their set of their toolkit, their resilient toolkit to deal with life. But I think if you haven't grown up in a resilient, focused family, how I think as adults we need to look for the places that can help us do that as an option, and to get that message across to people is, when we're in the depths of despair, and that's probably one thing I wish I'd been able to see a bit clearer. And it's teaching those, sowing this seed in children's minds or in people's minds and giving them some hope. Is that, say for instance, when your dad and I split up, that for me, I was just, I came from a sole parent family and I was devastated about that because I vowed that would never happen to my kids, and it was one of the toughest things to ever get over,
So you thought that you were devastated, and fair enough about that. But at the time, you probably were hating yourself, blaming yourself for why things happen. You're going to ruin what's coming up. And looking back at it, has it really changed that much? Has it affected the outcome what you thought it would? I guarantee it hasn't. But we think of the worst thing. This is going to stop it right up. Blame yourself. It's so easy to do that, but I think it's very easy to do that. If you look back like we can now, there was no real reason for you to blame yourself.
But the other point that I was going to make too is that whatever it is that happens, particularly taking their lives over as high up there is the end of relationships and, financial challenge and things that go wrong. If we, in our set of resilient toolkit, if more the positive voices around us tell us that sometimes the most hideous, horrible things happen to us, but it's looking to the future. You might feel that you'll never get over something, no matter what it is in your life. You might feel that you'll never get over something. But if that seeds in your mind and you've grown up with those values of the days can be dark right here and now, but time and healing and work, emotional work, some other beautiful things can happen in life. And I just think at times that's what's kept me going. Like it's thinking, wow, what about into the future, blah, blah, blah. And some things I can look back now and go, oh, I never knew in my future that I would have these amazing kids and grandkids that are my absolute earth, that the love that you feel them being part of the children that you gave birth to and being of your blood, these amazing little individuals is just, it's the best thing in the world. It's just amazing. And money can't, nothing in my eyes. I mean, we've all got different values that we treasure and value different things, but for me, that's just amazing. And whatever that, it's looking to the future about being able to, feel love and joy from things, whatever they are in the future, and just believing that if we work on things, we can't expect things just to happen. We need to work and grow with things, and there'll always be challenges, but it's how we come through those challenges ourselves individually. We can teach ourselves to be resilient if we seek out the information. If our ears are open to hearing things coming from our teachers in life, it'll be there. In people's darkest hours, they could probably look back and go, I knew that someone was out there, or at my darkest hour. And this is a lot around mental health and what gets people through is that, there'll be that little light in the darkness or the light at the end of the tunnel where you're hearing someone who's come into your life that's saying something positive that you grab onto,
Sure.
Yeah. Did I go off on a tangent then?
Perfectly.
No.
Perfectly. No. And this is the whole idea about why I wanted to do stuff like this, was to for people to talk out loud about what has happened, what's coming up in the past. Also, so people can listen, and if they find that they might have a similar situation to whatever pops up, that they might look at things a little bit easier, not as harsh. Look at how everything is. You blame yourself so easily, and at the end of the day, I don't think most things are as bad as what you think they are, or they will be.
Sometimes they often don't need to be.
And we don't know what's coming up. We don't know who we'll bump into or who will know what we do. And me, for a father, I change every day. I see something. Friends, how they treat their kids or what they're doing. Still look at how you go with them and then how things happen around me. And I think it's easier for me to be on an ever-evolving parent scale rather than just picking a mold and saying I'm this type of person, because I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago, let alone 20 years ago. So I think it's a good way to change constantly and evolve that way. A bit of advice for any parents out there or future parents that you would like to give? A bit of Robyn's wisdom.
Wow, Robyn's wisdom. Wow.
Yeah.
If I could do it all again, I would, at this point in time, in this time in life, with all of, you know, how fast paced our life is, I would be so. I'm thinking of individuals and parents. I think it's really important to have a strong sense of self when we're embarking on parenthood, and to be open to learning and growing. Not beat yourself up all the time. I spent a lot of years blaming myself for everything that's gone wrong. I think it's important to chill out and be present in the moment. I see a lot of families under pressure to have everything, you know, the busy life, the house, the everything all at once. And I think sometimes we've got to just take a step back and, in terms of having families, maybe not be so busy and be really mindful of the balance. I see a lot of people doing that now. I just think spending time laughing and catching up, and, you know, I really value the family times when you're either together as a little family or your extended family, grandparents, whatever, and the important downtime in this fast pace. Just creating space for people to be individuals within the family as well.
Yep.
Just being mindful and more present, I think. But I think a lot of, I on a positive note, I see parents sharing the load a lot more these days. When I was younger, you know, the female generally stayed at home and did the parenting, and the dad went off to work, and it was that real traditional stuff. But I love the idea of both parents sharing and carrying the load.
Yep.
And stepping up. Dad's being present, dad's getting in the kitchen and doing stuff, and, you know, the load shared. And that's really great for kids to see. Each parent, regardless of their gender, being present and sharing the load, respecting each other. I don't stand for any violence in the family, and I think we need to have a whack on the back of the head trigger, that when you hear yourself starting to get, you know, into that aggression, or there's any violence, verbal, abusiveness or physical, then that's the moment to get out and get some help. You know, the trauma that children experience from stuff like that, I also want to just say that don't ever think that a child is too young to hear you yelling and screaming, because that's when it's internalised and they don't know what's going on, but they can feel the danger. So be really mindful about how much kids really pick up.
They pick up
at
everything.
The same time. Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, I think we need to find the balance about what we expect of ourselves as parents. Remember that you're an individual person too, and we all have needs, and we have it gets back to that balance. And, you know, and that's the same as individuals, and then the balance of the relationship, and then, you know, just, yeah, having your downtime, not killing yourself with work. I mean, you know, I guess
the balance is really hard sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking to that imbalance queen of, you know, life. I've got the 61 before I've gone, wow, hang on a minute, stop. You know, try and create a situation where you can spend more time with your family for the first time ever, and not having to be, you know, for example, as a sole parent, you're trying to keep the mortgage going and all of that sort of stuff. And I just think think of creative ways that you can generate an income that still gives you some balance. Don't be locked into a square box.
Yep.
Because life's over real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Robyn's
Sorry,
wisdom.
Carl, what were you going to say? That's a little bit of it, yeah.
How much more is in there? There'd be a few hours in there.
It's always a learning curve. We never stop learning until we've gone off the face of the earth.
Perfect.
It's never too late, but don't waste too much time in life as well. You know, you can't. It's hard to get time back.
Now, I have to ask this question. Who's your favourite, Em or me?
Oh, who's my favourite?
She told me
I
the other day
laughed
that
when
she
you
was.
did that. Yeah, I laughed. I laughed the other day when you did that that podcast and you were talking about the favourite child. See, this is how I get around it, right? You're my favourite big male. Connor's my favourite teenage grandchild. Ollie's in there as the youngest boy. Isabel's my favourite young girl. Oh, and I am in trouble when the baby, well, the baby will just be my favourite young baby. But
We don't know, it
Isabel's
could be boy or a girl.
Oh, well, that's right, exactly. What did I say? Did I?
No,
yeah,
I'm
that's
just saying,
right.
yeah. We haven't found out.
No. And that's funny because I think we all have our little inklings about whether it's a boy or a girl, and and it comes out in some of the things that we say. I don't know what I just said then, but
I think it's everybody says we don't have favourites. I don't have a favourite, and I think that's crap because your favourite can change depending on what time of the day it is, what day it is. It could be Em's birthday, and of course she's your favourite that day. It's all about her. She might do something. One of your kids might graduate from school, and the others are still in kinder. Well, the kid graduating from school is making you really proud, so there's nothing wrong with them being your favourite kid for that moment in time, or that day, or whatever it is. As long as it's shared out evenly, and then that's up to you to educate and push your kids into doing things that make you proud, that make your job harder in saying, well, this person's my favourite, this is my favourite. So I think there's nothing wrong with having a different favourite for different situations. What I was getting at with that last one was, at the moment I can say Connor's my favourite boy and then Isabel's my favourite girl, but either way, when this baby arrives in the next day or so, I'll be stumped because I'll have to pick per moment.
Yeah.
So let's see. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying before. The way I get around that, because I want everybody to feel equal and special, and that's how I get around it, by saying you're my favourite big male, and then and then there's the age group, so everybody feels equal. Because I don't want anyone to feel that they're not my favourite or less loved, or because that'll never be the case. You might be cross and grumpy with someone and go, rawr, but I adore you all. Yeah, and I just, I love our Brady bunch. Look from, I can say when I found out that you and Tony, you were going to be a dad and Tony was having Connor, I had no idea what lay ahead. I had no idea
Makes
this grandchild that I felt sad because there were two people that were separated, and that was sort of that hit hard. But what's transpired over the years down the track is that we've got our little Brady bunch, and and I love you all dearly, and you all mean the world to me, and the joy and fun, and I know it hasn't always been easy, and there's been some working through like anything else, but we've all done it, and we've got to where we are today, and things will always be evolving in any situation. But I think we've the joy that I've got from our Brady bunch is just fills my heart with love, absolute love, for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
Well, on that note, Robyn, I'll love you and leave you. We'll wrap this up. Thank you for coming.
I just want to. Can I just say something?
Yeah, of course.
I just want to say, I think that both you and Em have grown up as very self-motivated people that aren't expecting things to fall at their feet. You've both schooled and worked hard and been self-reliant. I'm very proud of you both. Absolutely proud of you both. And I think that you and Nat and Tony are being fabulous parents. You know you don't know it all, but you're trying so absolutely beautifully, and you're working on it, and you're keeping it real, and that's fabulous. And I'm so proud of what you're doing, Kyle. I really am. Take my hat off to you, putting it out there.
Of course.
It's been a really challenging time through this whole, I'm not going to use the word because I'm sick of hearing it, but it's been challenging time.
I'll use the word. It's a shit sandwich. We're all in this shit sandwich together. Well, thank you for being part of Self-Help Sundays and being the first
I'm
guest.
honoured.
For the first podcast. You've done it twice, and it is about fatherhood, but I believe you've done that twice on your own as well. So you're as much of a father as I am. So you played the role, you've done the hard yards, and just wanted to get you on board and see what you had to say. I think you've done pretty well.
Thanks, Dale. There's a lot I wish I could change, but moving forward, that's the important thing.
Perfect. Right, Rob. I'll leave you with it.
Thank you so much for inviting me to do this. I love you lots.
Go pour yourself a red, and I want you to scare Em when she gets home.
Yeah. No more clown things, you rascal. Oh, and if I can tell you one thing that absolutely freaked me out, I remembered it before, was when I found out your dad took you hunting at your young age. I nearly died. Bye, Jingos.
Looking back, it was a bit scary, but that's okay. Pigs running into me and giving me blood noses, and eating tandoori rabbit while you're hunting for pigs.
Wild pigs in the bush.
Different way of doing it. Yeah.
Photographs were horrific. Anyway.
All right. Thanks, Rob.
Love you lots, Dale.
Love you too.
Well done.
First episode wrapped up, all done and dusted. Very rusty, but that's just the way it is. I'm not polished. Maybe a little bit. Let's just remember, if you're out there, you need a hand, yell out to a friend, family member, anyone. If not, and you're watching this, send out a message. Let's all bandy and be there for each other. Everyone's well-being and mental health is important, and we should treat it that way. And it's not something to shy away from. If something's not right, then let's get together and make it right. Happy people together are better people, and I think we're all in a place of being able to help someone, especially ourselves. So reach out if you can. If you can't, reach out to me. Peacock saying goodbye.